today to get some people join through Zoom, inshallah. And I hope that more people join us so we could have some discussion and interaction. I need to get this going. Hope that the session will last for 40 minutes, inshallah. And I hope that we can give enough information on Surah Al-Mumtahinah today. So, Surah Al-Mumtahinah, Surah 60 in the Quran, and subhanAllah, if Surah Al-Mumtahinah understood correctly by Muslims across the Muslim world, we would have no problems created by groups, different groups. Welcome, Brother Arif. I'm glad you joined because this means that Zoom is working. I was a bit worried. Like if Surah Al-Mumtahinah was understood by Muslims, we wouldn't have Daesh, we wouldn't have Qaeda, we wouldn't have ISIS, even we wouldn't have Muslim Brotherhood, who, subhanAllah, lost a lot of people in prison and fights and people killed because just they didn't understand Surah Al-Mumtahinah. If they understood Surah Al-Mumtahinah, they would have coped with Muslims and non-Muslims and Christian and Jew and atheist and everybody. So Surah Al-Mumtahinah wasn't sent just to comment on one event. It's to set rules for Muslims, subhanAllah. People who join us on Zoom, you can also see the presentation on Facebook or YouTube, and obviously you need a screen. If you have a screen at a computer or another mobile, or even smart TV, audio, YouTube, which still appear on YouTube as well. So the main topic of the surah is that you should, who you should trust with your top secrets. We're talking about here the major land security, the major nation security. We're not talking about having a trade deal or having a partnership with the economy or with tourism or with environment or whatever, top security. And the reason of this surah is that when the Prophet ﷺ was trying to go and open Mecca after Quraysh broke the treaties with the Prophet ﷺ, he blinded all the news. He didn't want any news to go to Mecca people because he didn't want to go into any fights. He just wanted to enter Mecca in peace without any fight. So he wanted just to suddenly appear in Mecca, so the Mecca people wouldn't have time to prepare themselves and go and fight. Obviously, the Muslims who are going back with the Prophet ﷺ, they were from Mecca people, Muhajirin, and obviously there's Ansar as well. And subhanAllah, one of the Sahaba thought that if he goes to Mecca, he wasn't from Mecca, he was like attached to Mecca. He didn't have a tribe to protect him or family or whatever. So he was afraid that the Mecca people might take revenge from him being vulnerable. So he thought the Prophet ﷺ was going to be entering Mecca in peace. Allah promised him, and Allah will not let the Prophet down. So his message to Mecca might get him some support that you are not one of them trying to kill us, and if he goes to Mecca with the Muslims, then they will not attack him in particular and will not attack his family. So he sent a letter to Mecca people saying to them that the Prophet ﷺ is after you. And he gave the letter to a lady who happened to be a mushrik lady. She wasn't a Muslim. She was from Mecca coming to Medina trying to seek some help. Her name was Sarah مولاة ابن أبي عمرو بن صيفي بن هشام بن عبد المطلب بن عبد مناف. So the Prophet ﷺ asked her, why you're here, or coming Muslim? She said, no, I'm coming to meet somebody. No, why you here? She said, to beg for money. And she was like, a lady who used to sing for money. And he said, why people you are used to entertain don't give you money? She said, no, after they lost Badr, they're not actually coming after my entertainment. So the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, give her whatever and let her go back. So on her way back, Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a gave her that letter that the Prophet coming to you. And the Prophet ﷺ, he wrote in the letter, من حاتب بن أبي بلتع إلى أهل مكة إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يريدكم فخذوا حذركم. That the Prophet is after you, so take care, be reminded, be careful. So he thought he would get accepted by them. And the Prophet ﷺ obviously was told by Allah about the letter. So he sent Ali ibn Abi Talib and Zubayr and Al-Miqdad, and he said to them, go to a place called Rawdat Khakh, and you will find a woman there who have a letter sent to Mecca, so bring the letter from her. And if she refused, you can kill her. So when he went there, well, that's major treason. I don't think he said you can't kill her. No, it's not from me. So you take it back. Rawdat Khakh. Obviously, it is from Allah Azza wa Jal. It is a wahi, because she is walking herself, and they will be running after her, and they would meet. Depends on their speed and her speed. So their speed is fast, her speed is slow, but they will both meet in Rawdat Khakh, and they did. And they asked her for the letter. She denied having the letter. And Ali ibn Abi Talib, the rest were about to leave. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, the Prophet didn't lie to us. And we are not lying. The Prophet didn't lie to us. And Wahi, Jibreel, didn't lie to the Prophet. So he said to her, either you give us the letter or I will kill you. And, get rid of the message. The message will not go then. She said yes, yes, and she gave them the letter from the back of her hair. She hid it inside her hair. So they took the letter and came back, and it is from Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a. So the Prophet ﷺ asked him, why you did that? He said, Ya Rasulullah, he told him the story that I was just trying to get do some favor to Quraysh so they will not attack me. And he said to him, by Allah, I didn't leave my religion. I don't love the kuffar, and I didn't leave Islam, and I don't like kufr, unbelief. So the Prophet ﷺ said he has told the truth. And Umar ibn Khattab said, let me cut his head, because he committed major treason. So the Prophet ﷺ said no, because he witnessed Badr with us. He was with us in Badr, and Allah Azza wa Jal have looked into the people who joined Badr, and he said, do whatever you like, اعملوا ما شئتم فقد غفرت لكم. Do whatever you like, because I have forgiven you. Which means that no matter what you do in the future, that will be pardoned. And subhanAllah, this is again another lesson that in Islam, a mistake doesn't mean a killing mistake, because they look back into your past track record, and your past track record is counted, and it is considered when a punishment for a crime, for a mistake is taken. So here the Prophet ﷺ pardoned him. He committed major treason. The penalty should be death penalty, but because of his contribution to Islam, and the Prophet ﷺ said he was telling the truth. He hasn't overstated. He hasn't left Islam. He hasn't showed love to the kafirin. But he made a major mistake, a big mistake, but like ill judgment. So the Prophet ﷺ pardoned him, and Allah Azza wa Jal sent the surah to comment on how you deal with your enemy. And in this surah, there's two things mentioned. One of it, mawadda, the love to your enemy, the love to their religion, to love their way of life. And the other point, how you deal with those who are not fighting you. And that's called bir. So I have mawadda and bir. Mawadda is haram, bir is halal. Mawadda is haram, bir is halal. Bir is haram if the enemy is fighting you because of your religion and force you out of your land. So this is different than enemy who is not fighting you for your religion. You might have fight with your enemy because of trade, because of border dispute, because of environment, because of political issues, whatever. Like you, in the history, where Ali ibn Abi Talib and Muawiyah, they did fight. And Allah said in the Quran, وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. If the group of the believers fight each other, bring them back together, reconciliate between them. And he acknowledged, yes, fight could take place between two group of believers. So, but if the fight because of your religion, because you are Muslim, is fighting you to stop you being Muslim, and that's not acceptable. That you become real, your real enemy. So the Surah Al-Hashr, it's obviously linked to Surah Al-Mumtahinah, linked to Surah Al-Hashr, when there were alliances between Bani Nadir and the hypocrite in Medina and the Kafirin of Quraysh, and how this alliance never worked. So don't trust any alliance with your enemy fighting you. And then he brought this story. And now this story was a few years after Bani Nadir, and that's when the Prophet ﷺ went back, was planning to go back to conquer Mecca. And he, Allah is instructing Muslims to be really careful. There's a lot of rules in Surah Al-Mumtahinah, and rules which really need to be studied internationally, really, by all Muslims. And this is why I said at the beginning, if the group, many groups of Muslims, if they studied Surah Al-Mumtahinah, they would have not got involved in any terrorist activities, any fight against governments, fight against Muslim groups, or fight against non-Muslim groups who are not under the title of fighting you for your religion or forcing you out of your land. So he addressed the definition of security and partners and other commercial and humanity or citizenship partners. So there is security partners. Thus, your security would be destroyed if you become, if you love them, if you give them your mawadda, your affection, and also addresses the religious tolerance and coexistence with other religions and the religious love. And that was the end of the surah. He also was asking us to test immigrants and refugees. Many refugees, some refugees became terrorists when they came to Britain, came to France, came to Germany, even in Turkey, even many countries. So a refugee doesn't mean that he is trustworthy straight away. He might claim to be Muslim, might claim to be believer, but Allah has wants us to test. And this, especially when women came, and he said, فَامْتِحِنُهُنْ, and this is where the surah took its name from, imtihan, testing the refugees and the immigrants and the new Muslims. Many of us, a new Muslim who claimed, I didn't actually witness him becoming Muslim, but just they became like commonly known to be Muslim. It caused so much trouble to us and cost us money to get rid of him. Accepting a Muslim, accepting Islam nullify previous marriage, that's another thing. So if somebody become a Muslim, then if she's married or he's married, the marriage become null and void. And here we have to be careful, because when you come to Britain and people enter Islam and they are married, there is certain things we need to be careful and do. Because if you take that into account, then you have the potential of losing a family. We met a Muslim who became Muslim in Leicester, and his wife, we invited him for a meal, and his wife wasn't a Muslim. We said, why? She said, because I like to visit my family, and I like to eat if they, give me food and things. And so I become Muslim because they told this guy when he became Muslim, first, you can't eat the food of other than Muslims, and you cannot eat on a table. You cannot use a knife and fork. You cannot do this and this and this. And she said, I can't do that. So when we came, and she came to us, to our house, and they found out we put them around table with knife and forks, and said, oh, Muslims are allowed to eat with knife and forks. And then we had discovered more of them and more of what she told us, and said, no, you can go and eat in your family's house. You only avoid pork and alcohol, and the rest is halal. You're not instructed to ask your mom about the beef or the lamb or the chicken in the food, because it's general in the Quran. طعام الذين أوتوا الكتاب حل لكم وطعامكم حل لهم. Yes, if it's on general level, you might need to make sure that you're not actually cheated by butchers and things. And fork and knife that's nothing to do with Sharia. It's nothing. If you eat with your 3 fingers, you will be rewarded 50 times. If you eat with the knife or fork, you lose 50 reward. It doesn't exist. So subhanAllah, she became a Muslim within a week. And we went to the farm and had barbecue there, and subhanAllah. I mean, that's the rules there, how you address. So when we addressed it correctly, she became Muslim. We had somebody who became Muslim, and he said, what can I do? I said, what's he told us first that he's living with his girlfriend. I said, there's no girlfriend in Islam. You have to either to marry her or leave her. He said, I live in her flat. So if he leaves her, you will be homeless. I said, okay, sleep in separate room. He said, there's only 1 bedroom. I said, okay, sleep in the lounge. You have a lounge? He said, yes. I said, sleep in the lounge. And few things. And then 2 weeks later, his girlfriend came, and we invited her to our house, and we offered her to become a Muslim, and she became. SubhanAllah, I said, you are a Muslim now. You shouldn't allow Omar, he named himself Omar, said, we shouldn't allow Omar to see you without hijab, and not to see your body. When we met him, he never married, and he said he will never marry. So that was his decision. So when we told him what to do, we accepted straight away his girlfriend, and yes, you can, and you stay there, and this is the rules and things. And 6 weeks later, we had a phone call, we decided to marry each other. So subhanAllah, you need to be careful. So not be too rigid. If he became Muslim, leave the house, leave your girlfriend, be homeless, and we destroy a potential family. Then they're married, and she became Muslim, they married each other. And we went to see them a few years later. They have 3 children. They're living happy ever after. So subhanAllah. But that's wisdom of how to deal with one member of the family who become Muslim. And we have a couple of occasions, a couple of situations like here in Solihull. We had one who want to become Muslim, and he went to Birmingham. They said, well, the first thing you have to do, you have to circumcise. And he came to me, he said, he's 30-something. He's already married, and he married a Moroccan lady. How would I circumcise and things? And it's not even, it's Sunan al-Fitra. Sunan al-Fitra, Sunnah. How many of us keep all the Sunnahs? Even Sunnah to Dhuhr, people don't keep, or Sunnah Asr or something. Anyway, so...
I was going to share a story. When I was at school, we had a school friend. His name was Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
And during Ramadan, he used to come to the mosque with us, doing the food. So after a few days, he said to him, look, you can't do that. You can't just come to the mosque to have food with us. You have to become a Muslim. He said, then I'll become a Muslim. So next day he came back, and we said to him, so what have you decided? He said, I'm a Muslim. I said, what have you done? He said, I've changed my name. Change your name from what? He said, I changed it from Anthony Brown to Abdul Brown. he said,
So,
well, what about the rest? What about your surname? You can't keep Brown. He said,
yeah.
no, my mother's going to kill me if I do that.
Yeah, that's yeah. Brother saying that somebody was coming to the mosque in Ramadan just to have food with them, and they said you can't come until you become Muslim. So he changed his name. He didn't acknowledge the shahada and things. So here, important here. Look in accepting Islam, not only 5 previous marriage, but that's in the case when they immigrated from Mecca to Medina. Now they can marry in Medina. They can settle in Medina. That's different than a family, one member of the family become Muslim, and what shall I do with the rest of the family? That's completely different rules, which is you need to learn about. But here, they immigrated from Mecca to Medina and left the kufr, left the shirk, left the pagan, belief and things, and they came to the Prophet ﷺ, and automatically the marriage become null and void, because she need to live someone, and she need to be looked after, and she need to be supported and things. Compensating, look into a previous good record, I said it earlier, Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a, how his contribution in Badr saved him from being executed for what was major treason, and also compensated lost marriage gifts. Now, the lady who leave Islam and go become kafir, she has to return the marriage gift. And if she fails, then the state will have to get the marriage gift back from her to her husband. And if there is any gain in war or whatever in the future, you go and take the marriage gift, and the expenses cost you to marry her. And there were 5 cases when ladies left Islam, went to Mecca, and their Muslim husbands lost their dowry marriage gift and lost a lot of money they gave to the wife, and vice versa. If a lady leave her husband in Mecca, come to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ was sending to the husband the marriage gift he gave her. So subhanallah, I mean, look at how just Islam is, and they are his enemy. And because there is also a treaty, there's Sulh al-Hudaybiyah between them. But the other thing that Hudaybiyah treaty did not apply to women, did not include women. And subhanAllah, the Kafirin accepted that in Mecca. They used to treat women differently. They have this shame and honor and things that, don't like try to be a man fighting a woman. So that's not something a Muslim male could do. So that's helped when they came from Mecca to Medina. The men were not accepted in Medina. This is the treaty. If anybody become Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ should not accept him in Medina. But it was taken as male and females. But when females came, the Prophet ﷺ accepted them, and he relied on this ayah and tested them before obviously accepted them, because you can't allow really, economical immigrant to cheat you, or love immigrants, or if they had to be the immigration for the sake of Allah and His Messenger. Otherwise, they would be violating the treaty as well. So the surah itself, as summary, from verse 1 to 3, rules on what you should do when you are supposed to trust your enemy with your top secrets, and why. And that's it's top secret. You cannot let mawadda here exist between you and the enemy. Your enemy was fighting you and kicked you out of your land and things. And that type of love between you and the enemy has to be out of the window, cannot be there. And then for verse 4 till 6, Allah told us that's the way of even Ibrahim والسلام, and his followers. And verse 7, do not worry if you have left loved one behind the enemy borderline, because the Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a was fearing for his family, and they are not originally from Mecca. They were attached to Mecca, so he was, and here Allah says, Allah will look after them, don't worry about them. Verse 8 and to 9, how to build your international relationship according to your enemy's intention and practice. So if they're not fighting you because of your religion, and they're not fighting you, they're not kicking you out of your land like Israel. There's no way any Muslim state is allowed to make a relationship with Israel. There's no excuse whatsoever because it's in Surah Al-Mumtahinah. It's so clear. And they've done both. They fought the Palestinians because of their religion and kicked them out of their lands. And they've done that in Golan Heights, and they've done that in West Bank, and they've done that in SIEA. So this is, by definition, they took all Palestine, never mind West Bank and Jordan. That's from the start. Then they were killed in Germany. Their Jewish brother were killing Palestinians in Palestine. And that's contradicting their religion, because if you have the same religion, we take the Holocaust as evil and crime and things, we should take what Zionists doing in Palestine, similar to what Hitler did with the Jews in Germany. What Zionists did to the Jew in Palestine is exactly the same. We had a Holocaust survivor came to talk to us in Elderbrook School, and I said to him, why don't you talk as well about the Zionists who were moving from village to village, killing Palestinians, forcing them out of their lands, destroying their crops, destroying their women, children, and men and everybody. And it's, under the eyesight of Britain and America and Europe. And we take Holocaust as being a crime, but we don't take what the Zionists did in Palestine as a similar crime. So this is important, because Surah Al-Mumtahinah could take a lot of these Muslim countries who neutralize their relationship with Israel out of Islam, because they're denying this very surah, which is instructing them that you cannot treat them the same, because you have to be mawadda is the virtue, the good things, the virtue, noble behavior, to have noble behavior with them. And this is how do you know the bear, because the ayah لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. تبروهم, those who don't fight you because of your religion or because or forced you out of your land, you are expected to do bir with them. And bir taken from the hadith, البر حسن الخلق والإثم البر حسن الخلق والإثم ما حاك في نفسك وكرهت أن يطلع عليه الناس. So البر here حسن الخلق, virtue of noble behavior. So your behavior will be noble with them, will be normal with them. But if they fight you because of your religion and they force you out of your land, you go back to treat them as enemies, and you have to be really careful. Verse 10 to 13, test the immigrant and the refugee, even if they claim to be Muslims. Now, most of the refugees, they don't come to Britain and say we are Christian and we are Jew, or we are democracy, whatever, luckily. But now they have something in Britain called citizenship. You need to be tested whether you are really planning to be a loyal citizen. Now in France, Macron now trying to get the Muslims to make an organization, and they have to be in control of all the imams and all the Islamic centers, and then to teach the Muslims in France that they should be French citizens. I don't have details of this, but this is new today, and he's forcing the Muslims to unite, which is in a way is good, because we have around 800,000 different groups of Muslims in Britain. In Solihull we have 5-6 different groups. They don't recognize each other, and they don't listen to each other. They don't synchronize with each other. So probably.
I haven't read the report fully either, but from the outset, it sounds quite good. It says don't politicize your religion and don't take orders from foreign governments.
Yeah, don't bring teachers from outside without vetting them, and don't, like we're saying, don't politicize. politicize your religion and don't take orders from outside. I went to a mosque in Birmingham. The instruction coming over the internet. I mean, they project a person from Saudi teaching them what to do and how to behave. And now the same people who are teaching them there, they said last week, the same person, I saw him on the screen, he said all Muslim Brotherhood are not Muslims. To take somebody out of Islam, to say he is kafir, one of you is. So what he did last week, he took all the Muslim Brotherhoods out of Islam, saying they have nothing to do with Islam. So that's really very dangerous. Yes, they have their mistakes, they have their problems, they have some of the behavior wasn't in according with the Islamic teaching, but they still believe La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, they still pray, they still fast. It's like if you say, we can't say about Shia kafir, although they have a lot of things wrong, but if they say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, you can't nullify it. You can't come and say, when the Osama bin Zayd, when he killed the guy who said La ilaha illallah, after 3 times he said it and he was lying. The 4th time the Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, how did you know? It might be correct. So this is Surah Al-Mumtahinah, subhanAllah, it has so many lessons to learn. And if you want to teach any political group, anybody who wants to have political party like Hizb ut-Tahrir or Muslimin or any group, they must learn Surah Al-Mumtahinah first. And they learn it from a really efficient educator and scholar and things. There's a lot of unique things in Surah Al-Mumtahinah, talking about تركون إليهم بالمودة. First time mentioned تسرون إليهم بالمودة أن يثقفوكم يكون لكم ماذا ولن تنفعكم أرحامكم. It's quite few. I don't know whether you are seeing the screen or not, brothers on the Zoom. لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين. Many of these rules actually exist in Mumtahinah, doesn't exist in the rest of the Quran. إنما ينهاكم الله عن الذين قاتلوكم في الدين وأخرجوكم من دياركم. That's Allah Azza wa Jal telling us who are your enemy, who you should avoid, even not to be a bar with them, not to treat them like as you treat the rest of humanity, because they're fighting you for your religion and they're forcing you out of your land. It's like somebody is trying to be kind to a lion who's going to eat him. We saw one picture and a schizophrenic went inside a zoo and he's trying to be kind to a tiger, and the tiger ate him. So you can't do that. So this is the ayats and how to test. إذا جاءكم مؤمنات مهاجرات فامتحنوهن. You have to test the lady muhajirs when they come to you. And you shouldn't send them back to kuffar. They are no longer halal to them to marry, and they cannot marry them either. And there's no harm to marry them also only in the Quran. These rules actually exist for that specific time, specific religion reason. And the lady who comes shouldn't be coming at all because of love history, because of economical migration, because of seeking some help and gain and asking for money, whatever. That's different than somebody left her country for the sake of becoming a Muslim, coming to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَلَا تُمْسِكُوا بِعِصَمِ الْكَوَافِرِ. That is no way you are allowed to marry a kafir person, whether a man or a woman. Once he's kafir, doesn't believe in Allah, forget it. The only exemptions is Christian and Jew, because it's in the Quran. والمحصنات من المؤمنين والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب. If she's a chaste woman, she's not married, she's Christian or Jew, you can marry. Obviously, there is rules around that. And then again, if your wives leave you and go to join the kuffar, you can claim your mahr back and expenses you spent on marrying her, and the government should get that for you. You don't go fight her and get my money back. No, it's the role, it's the duty of the government to get your money back. And if a woman leave a kafir husband and become Muslims, you should give the kafir husband the mahr. I don't know about how we're doing this in prison. If somebody become Muslim and leave her husband for the sake of Islam, I haven't come across somebody who left her husband because of Islam. But if they don't leave the husband and the husband doesn't become Muslim, there is high chance that she leaves Islam and goes back to the whatever belief. But we didn't. I mean, I was one or two cases I came across, but I couldn't find a way to talk to the lady and see whether she actually left Islam or not. And then how to make bay'ah with the believing women. So there's rules, and the Prophet ﷺ was making bay'ah, but there is things in the bay'ah which is not in the bay'ah to the men. And the bay'ah is interesting because when Hind, she came, she was so embarrassed to come and make bay'ah to the Prophet ﷺ because she employed Wahshi, who killed his uncle Hamza. So she was, they said she was munaqqaba, covering her face, which means everybody else wasn't. The women were not covering their face who came to give bay'ah. Only Hind was trying to avoid being known. But when she started negotiating with the Prophet, why is this, why is that, why you're asking us not to become mushrik, and you didn't ask the men that, and why are you asking us to not commit adultery, why are you asking us to not, because there's a dialogue between the Prophet ﷺ and Hind, and not to kill our children. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, are you Hind? Bint Utbah, she said yes. So he discovered that yes, she was Hind, but she was very strong personality, and she was a lady who was arguing her case. And then she said, وَلَا يَسْرِقْنَ. She said to him, I used to steal from Abu Sufyan because Abu Sufyan, her husband, because he wasn't giving me the house running money for food and drink. And when she exposed Abu Sufyan in front of the Prophet ﷺ and all Sahaba, Abu Sufyan said, all what you stole from me is halal for you. Don't worry. You don't have to worry and give it back to me. So he was very embarrassed that you are mean, you are not giving your wife enough food and drink and enough money to buy food either. So it's interesting surah because it shows you the Muslims were negotiating every single word, although it's from the Quran. إذا جاءك أيها النبي إذا جاءك المؤمنات يبايعنك على أن لا يشركن بالله ولا يسرقن ولا يزنين ولا يقتلن أولادهن ولا يزنين, not to commit adultery, ولا يسرقن, not to steal, ولا يقتلن أولادهن, not to kill their children, ولا يأتين ببهتان يفترينه بين أيديهن وأرجلهن. This is not zina. Don't bring anything, a lie you invented between your legs and arms. It's not zina. It's a lady who could bring, kidnap a child or bring a child from somebody and tell her husband, he was away or something, this is your child, because she's forcing him to look after somebody else's children. So that's also not allowed, because some women do steal children. She could give stillbirth, a child is dead, and she goes and kidnap another child from the hospital or from the ward, and that happened in Britain many times. Happened. وَلَا يَعْصِينَكَ فِي مَعْرُوفٍ بَيْعَهُنْ, and they don't disobey you, then give them the bay'ah, accept their pledge of coming to Islam. So we are about to finish the 40 minutes on the Zoom. I hope that next Friday will be the last Friday online, and probably inshallah we'll go back to the mosque. We don't need the Zoom, and carry on with that. So when we go inshallah to the surah itself, and the surah, Allah is starting, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, and he mentioned the story, commented on the story of Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a, and he told them why. If they catch you, they will not be merciful with you. They will kill you. They will destroy you. So be really careful. لن تنفعكم أرحامكم ولا أولادكم. Don't worry about your family, because you need, when you go back to Allah Azza wa Jalla, you are not going to be responsible for them, and they will not be responsible for you, and they will neither give you any of their deeds, good deeds, or you give them any of your good deeds. And then he mentioned Ibrahim. قد كان لكم أسوة في إبراهيم. Ibrahim, even he promised his father to ask Allah to forgive him, but when he knew he was an enemy of Allah, he said, no, I'm not. If you want to forgive him, it's up to you, Allah. إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك. Isa alayhi salam said, he just I've lost myself to save myself. And then he moved in the surah that لقد كان لكم فيهم أسوة حسنة. You have in the Muslims who came to Islam before you with the other prophets a guide as well. And don't worry, because these kafirin, Allah might make some of them your friends, and they became and entered Islam, and they became very close friends to the Muslims. And even Abu Sufyan, even Muawiyah, his son, even Hind became Muslim, even Aqba became Muslim, even not Aqba, what's his name? A similar one, the son of Abu Jahl. Yeah. Then Allah will talk about how to treat people who are not fighting you because of your religion, and they don't force you out of your land. And who is your real enemy? You should always be careful and never be not kind to them. Is those who fight you for your religion and force you out of your land. You should never be kind to them. You never establish relationship with them. Never establish any normal political or economical or whatever. That's your true enemy. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. So we will stop here inshallah, and we'll carry on next week, going through verse by verse inshallah of the surah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما